I'm in a really productive flow or season of life right now. Last 2 weeks have just been dialed in 13 to 15 hour days at the office. I'm probably 70 something hours in on this video Friday, 10:40 in the morning. I'm actually groggy because of how much I've been working. And I was thinking about it when I was getting my coffee. So first thing I do every single morning when I get to the office is I get a black coffee, hard coffee if it is winter, and an iced Americano. Less water, more ice. That's like a very important part of the order. Iced Americano if it's nice out. And when I was coming back, I was thinking about how productive this last 2 weeks have been. But I was also thinking about the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to these where I did not work really at all. I did not progress the business. I was just fixated on golf and a couple other things. I'm a very addictive personality. If you ever get to know me, the joke Tristan and I used to have about cigars is I hated cigars for a long time. When I first started working with Iman and the team, I was the guy who would never smoke a cigar. I'd probably stand or sit upwind from the cigar. And after having one or two and enjoying them, I went all in. And Tristan and I would laugh about it all the time. Same thing with golf. 1 year ago, I played my first round of golf, and within a 2 week span had probably spent a few $1,000s on clubs, and over the next 2 months, 3 months, spent thousands on coaching. And since then, I've only had like a 1 or 2 month hiatus where I haven't been playing golf consistently every single week. I get into things and I obsess with them. It's actually one of the reasons that drugs have always scared me. It's one of the reasons I will not get involved with nicotine and Zins and such. I just know for a fact that if I attach to something, I attach hard to it. So these last 2 weeks have been productive, but the 3 weeks prior to were incredibly unproductive, at least in the professional sense. And I think that's a very important note for a lot of aspiring business owners, even people doing $100,000, $200,000 a month. I think people think you have to be consistently grinding every single day, day in, day out to progress. And I want to be very clear that no one that I know doing large numbers does that, because to grow something, you have to be in it for the long term. And my favorite analogy for this is running. So you can run a marathon, jog a marathon, or you can sprint a 100, 200, 300 meter race. And every person is different. I have met people who are like diesel engines. Every single day they do like 1 or 2 hours of work, and you compound that over a couple of years and do amazing things. But the most common person or common personality type I've seen in business is a sprinter, where you can do 12 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours in a day of straight work for multiple days, maybe multiple weeks on end, maybe multiple months. But eventually, just like in a sprint, you just can't run anymore. You just get exhausted, and your brain, a muscle, has to take a break. And so realistically, if you want to go for the long haul, you're going to have flows where you're incredibly productive and you're sprinting, and then you're going to have flows where you're unproductive, you're walking, you're catching your breath before you can sprint again. And I think it's really important to understand that, because especially the newbies in the space, they think it's supposed to be a constant sprint day in and day out. But if you were going to sprint for the rest of your life with no stop, you would actually die of exhaustion. You'd probably have a heart attack. And so stage 1 of entrepreneurship is understanding that you have these flows, these seasons where you're going to be productive and you're going to be non-productive. Stage 2 is actually planning out those seasons. And so if we go back to the racing mentality, a marathon and a 300 meter sprint, they all have ends. They all have points at which you stop. The thing about business is, realistically, we don't have stop points unless we actually plan them out. And so if you're sprinting with no end in sight, that is a quick road to burnout. I see a lot of entrepreneurs just sprint, and eventually their brain just dies. That's why you see really, really influential people on YouTube or online just go MIA for months on end, because they went as hard as they could with no end stop. And because of that, their brain fried. If you go to the point where your heart is failing because you're sprinting for so long and so fast, what's going to happen is it's going to take longer for your heart to recover. It's going to take longer for your brain to recover than if you had just planned out stop points. One of my best friends, I was blessed to have such a good friend who is such a mentor to me. His life shows this, where he, over the last 30 or 40 years, has every single holiday or vacation, if you're in the States, planned out throughout the entire year. And what it does is it creates these little 100 to 300 meter sprints that he has to do between every single holiday. So if he knows he has a 3 or 4 day weekend coming up where he's going out to one of his lake houses or so, then what he'll do is he'll sprint for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long the sprint is until he gets to this rest point. And then he doesn't work at all, he rests. It could be a 1 week vacation in Europe or in an island, whatever be it, but there's points at which he sprints and then he recovers. And I think that's very important, because when I started, even now, I'm still guilty of this, I wasn't very good at planning out endpoints. So right now, if you look at the last few months, I had a sprint up until I went to Marbella. I knew I was going to Marbella for a week. I know when I travel, I'm not nearly as productive. And so I tell myself, I'm going to switch brain off. I'm going to network and have a good time. And it will be productive from a form of content, but I'm not working when I get to Marbella. And so I sprinted to Marbella. I came back. I'm in office for about 6 weeks, of which I took 2 weeks to kind of off, if you will, and play golf. And then I have a 4 to 5 week sprint before I go to Ireland. I go to Ireland in mid-August. I come back. That will be September. And then I have 2 months or 8 weeks, which is a long sprint before I go to Dubai for speaking at a conference. And when I go to Dubai, I'll probably be out there for a week, relax, come back 3 weeks before holidays of sprinting again. Actually, Thanksgiving is in the States, so it's probably going to be a week of sprint followed by a week off, followed by 2 weeks, and then holidays. But that's how I look at the race. I know that I just have to go as hard as I can for, it's August 2nd, call it 2.5 more weeks. 2.5 more weeks is all I have to do before I get time off. I get to go drink a Guinness on Ireland, meet a lot of good guys, record content, which to me is just a very easy form of work. I'm working, but I'm not really playing with my brain. It's very brain off work. And I get to relax, enjoy. Family will be out there with me. I come back and I put the brain on again and I sprint again into my next rest point, which is Dubai. Even thinking about it, that 8-week sprint is actually a long one. I might put a couple of days or maybe a elongated weekend in the middle of that to go play golf in another state in the States. You can't run an indefinite sprint for the rest of your life. And I think a lot of people try to play that game, and that's why no one gets longevity in this space. You have to make sure you have rest points. You're going to be running for the rest of your lives if you're in entrepreneurship. But if you think about your brain as you would your body, you know if you're going to run for the rest of your life physically, you're going to have endpoints where you sleep, where you rest, where you take a break, where you actually give time for your body to recover. No one thinks about their brain in the same regard. I want today to be something that encourages you guys to think about your brain as a muscle, give it time to relax. If there's an actionable to take from this video, it would be look at your calendar and just give yourself, maybe this month, a 3-day or 4-day weekend. Maybe next month, give yourself 5 days off. Plan out different rest stops. Tell yourself, buy the tickets, know what you're gonna do. Give yourself something to look forward to. And I promise you, when you know, like at the end of the race, when you know you're gonna get maybe a beer or a water or a donut or whatever it is, the medal, when you know what you're gonna get, you have something tangible that you can think about while you're running. I want you guys to think about tangibly while you're sprinting what you're coming up to. And it's gonna make you that much more effective in the short term, but it's also gonna make you so much more effective in the long term. Hope this helps. Love you guys. Until next time. Happy hunting.